بسم الله الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وأصحابه ومن سار سبيله إلى يوم الدين. أما بعد, Yunus, that water, the cold one out there? Yes, that one. So in continue our discussion or explanation of the book Bulugu al Maraam by Ahadeeth ibn Hajar al-Asqalani rahimahullah, and we have been covering the chapter concerning Sifatul Salat, regarding the bab concerning Sifatul Salat, and we have covered concerning various matters regarding ahkam, rulings pertaining to Salat, regarding how to go about doing the Salat as the Prophet Islam taught us. So in the last lesson that we were discussing concerning matters related to al-Qunut, we're discussing concerning matters pertaining to al-Qunut. So we discussed concerning Qunut in the Salah, that as in this particular case concerning, we have concerning Qunut, which is Qunut, as we mentioned, is a dua while the person is in the Salah. So Qunut is a supplication that is made, a specific supplication that is made while the person is still in the Salat, and it is normally done while the person, a discussion between ulama, is it before ruku or after ruku? A discussion between ulama regarding that matters we have covered, but it's a supplication that is said, a dua that is said while the person is Salat. And this supplication is said regarding cases that in the compulsory Salat, as we discussed that Qunut, that either you have Qunut concerning an-nazila or nawazil, cases where the Muslims have been befall with some type of catastrophe. So the Imam or the Imam that they will make al-Qunut. As in this particular case of the Prophet Islam, that he made Qunut. So Qunut either sometimes done in nazila, when some type of severe matter befall the Muslim, and the Imam or the Imam of the Salat, they will read this al-Qunut in this nazila. So it will be a supplication based upon the situation at hand. So that dua and that Qunut, it can be done in any of the Salat. Can be done in any of the Salat, compulsory salawat, whether in Fajr, Dhuhr, Asr, Maghrib or Isha. Also you have Qunut. So that's concerning one type of Qunut that is done. And also you have other masahil that is attached to it, but we won't go into details. Then we have the next type of Qunut, that is in this particular case concerning Qunut regarding al-Witr. Qunut regarding Salat al-Witr, where the Prophet Islam in this hadith concerning Hassan ibn Ali, or Hassan ibn Ali, where we mentioned concerning Allah min Rasul Islam, kalimat aquluhunna fil Qunut al-Witr. So they mentioned concerning Allahumma ahdini fima hadayt, and we mentioned the entire supplication. So we mentioned regarding this particular hadith that it is what is used by majority of the ulama regarding concerning that for Qunut al-Witr, this is the more preferred supplication to be used. Based upon the hadith where the Prophet Islam taught Hassan ibn Ali this particular supplication to be used in the Qunut al-Witr. But also bear in mind that this hadith that's narrated by al-Khamsa, and we said al-Khamsa is who again? Al-Khamsa. So Ibn Hajar mentioned, I have to mention is Rawahu al-Khamsa, narrated by al-Khamsa, the 5 books.
Muslim.
Okay, who's going first?
It's other than Bukhari and Muslim, I think.
Aywa. So you're on the right path. Okay, other than Bukhari and Muslim, Jaid.
Yeah.
So what are the Khamsa then? Other than Bukhari and Muslim.
Abu Dawud.
So Abu Dawud, At-Tirmidhi, Nasa'i, Ibn Majah, that's 4, Jaid, and the 5th? Al-Khamsa. Aywa. Ahmed in his Musnad. So that's concerning Al-Khamsa. So you add Ahmed to the Al-Araba, and that makes up Al-Khamsa. But generally concerning that, we'll say this particular hadith also, this hadith, it is used by majority of the ulama, that this is the proof regarding Al-Qunut al-Witr. And Witr, Salat al-Witr, that is regarding concerning that ad-raka that is prayed would be the final Salat for the night. But with hadith of Hassan ibn Ali, a discussion regarding the hadith where certain wordings are somewhat on the discussion or criticized. In the narration mentioned, I was taught by the Prophet Islam some words to be used in Qunut al-Witr, fi Qunut al-Witr. So I mentioned that I was taught some words to be used. When I mentioned fi Qunut al-Witr, that particular clause or that particular part of the sentence is under discussion between the ulama. Regarding mention fi kunut al-witr, where it specify which salat the supplication is to be said, which is kunut al-witr. But that statement, kunut al-witr, is under discussion between the ulama of hadith. Is it actually a part of the hadith or not? Understand the discussion? So that's concerning, so that matter is being discussed. So for example, in Ramadan, now you find we might hear this supplication being used often, nightly, possibly, especially in the last 10 nights when the Aimma, they read al-witr and the Jama'ah is behind them. You normally hear most of them try to stick to this, they might add a little to it or a lot to it, but whatever the case, most try to at least mention this, what? Supplication. Because it is the hadith, the supplication mentioned the hadith of kunutul witr. But we said the discussion regarding the part of the hadith that mentioned fi kunutul witr, that bit of the sentence in itself is under discussion. Where some mention that it is, he mentioned not that it is not a part of the hadith. So some narrators mention it, but actually is not a part of the hadith. Now, but there's a discussion between the ulama regarding that particular aspect. Also regarding al-qunut that we discussed concerning those of the some who have taken on the act of qunut every day in Salat al-Fajr. Now, so Salat al-Fajr every day, daily, they will mention al-qunut. And we mentioned the ulama mentioned that's act of bidah. That's an act of bidah. Now, and the Prophet Islam stressed concerning some of the matters regarding al-qunut. And we said that matters concerning qunut itself, in itself is our own area where a lot of things, masahil that relates to it. But here it is mentioned regarding showing the permissibility of Ibn Hajar, that the permissibility that qunut, a supplication, can be said in the salat. That is not the norm to be done. So it's not a norm to be done, and it can be said either in those salat which is the compulsory ones, based upon a something which is that is facing the Muslim, or a large percent of the Muslim, some type of catastrophe. I'll mention those catastrophes concerning qunut regarding qunut al-nazila. So we have qunut al-witr, we have just mentioned it. The second type of qunut is referred to as qunut al-nazila. Nazila in the sense of something of befall the Muslim of some form of catastrophe. Now, so you find the Aimma, sometimes they will make qunut. Now, those qunut also is permissible in any of the compulsory salawat, with the Fajr, Dhuhr, Asr, Maghrib, and Isha. And this qunut, dua al-qunut, will be said aloud. And the people can say Ameen behind the Imam, at the place that is to be said. But regarding qunut and nazila, of the matters that are discussed, and we can somewhat just make mentioned, I think we had made mention in the previous lesson regarding that, and nazila, when is it something which is left up to each imam of his masjid, if the Muslim is facing some form of catastrophe or tribulation, for him to make that decision on his own? Or is the matter where it goes back to those who are in authority to give the okay for this dua to be said? Understood what we're trying to discuss? For example, the Muslim are facing a catastrophe. Now, is it for the Imam in his masjid to make that decision that this catastrophe, this particular situation, warrant for me to make qunut and nazila, to supplicate, for example, against those people who are doing the Muslim some form of harm on a large scale? Type, is it up to the Imam of that masjid fulan, for him to make a decision on his own, or is to wait for permission to be given from the authorizing body in his country? For example, you have the Ministry of Religious Affairs as a body, as an example. Clear? Shabab, with me? So, what is the case? Some mention it's up to the Imam, and some mention is we should wait until you get authorization from those in authority. With me? Then those mention that you look to see if, for example, in certain country, they might stipulate for the imam, any nazila, do not do anything unless you have permission from us, from the Ministry of Religious Affairs. If that's the case, then he stick to that. If that's the case, he stick to it. And do not do it on his own accord. But if it's a case where, for example, some mention that's a case where in that country the government haven't put a condition that you have to wait for our authorization for you to do it. And they somewhat, if it is done, they would not per se mind if it is done in an appropriate way. Then some mention that the imam can do what he thinks is best. So it goes back, some mention goes back to the country that you are in and how they can somewhat, or they regulate those things. But generally, imam shouldn't do it where just him alone do it and no one else in the dunya. Just you alone decide, okay. For example, a couple of weeks ago, the Yahud state, the Israeli state, that they closed down Masjid Aqsa for about 2 weeks or so, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know about it? Hey. So it was closed for about 2 weeks, so no Juma and Aqsa. So is it now for the imam in his then to start to make kunut against them? But no one else is doing it in the dunya. It's a catastrophe, somewhat hardship, placed on a Muslim who wants to go to Aqsa, but to make al-kunut and nazila, in that case, in that particular circumstance, who else is along with you doing it? If you look around the other masajid in the dunya, no one else is doing it. But one imam decided, I'm going to do it. With me? So in those cases, don't be the odd one out. With me? And also, as ulama have also clarified regarding al-nazila, catastrophes that may affect the Muslim, catastrophe could be one which from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That something which we say, we use the word from Allah, we said people might refer to it as natural catastrophes. But we say from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Earthquake may have occurred, or a volcano decide to erupt and destroy a village.
Flood or something.
Or flood. You understand? Those things from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Maybe because of our sins or qadrullah masha, that it occurs. Those ones, there's no need for it. Because those ones from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not by something being done directly by us. But those ones from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, so there's no need in those cases as those from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But if there's a case regarding, for example, like in the case of Hadith of Qunut al-Nazila, where, for example, some of the Qurra, that they went to give dawah and they were killed by the kuffar. Now the Prophet sent a group of Qurra to teach the people, but then they were killed. Then he supplicated against those people for a while. Then in those cases, if it is something where the Muslim are being, others are transgressing the bounds against the Muslim, then it can be done. Can be done by way of Muslim being oppressed or boundaries being transgressed by others against the Muslim. Then in those cases, it could be done. Clear? So it's not just any catastrophe, an earthquake occurs there, then we start to do it. Or the place become like you have, they say famine, where the desert become even more dry, no rain at all, less rain than the norm. So those cases may be from our, we said, people refer to them as natural catastrophe, we say from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In those cases, need not to do it. But in cases where, for example, by way of others oppressing or transgressing the bounds of others, in this case, many Muslims are being affected. Many Muslims are affected by this. So that's concerned that matter as a way of closing on regarding al-Qunut. Then we'll go to now the next hadith that follows. The next hadith that follows. The hadith of...
Move on for the Qunut, Sheikh, because I wasn't here last week. You find that some of the sajids or some of the imams in Ramadan, they make it like they're going to make Qunut every night. And then there's some short Qunut, it's like some long Qunut. What's the position of the Imam regarding this? And is it a practice with Salah or Saleh that this was done in Ramadan with such frequency?
Regarding concerning, okay, so the question, two part, Oja. So one, regarding the question regarding concerning that Qunut fi Ramadan. Al-Qunut, supplication of Qunut in Ramadan. Regarding this matter, the ulama, they have one of the ulama of mention regarding that kunut is permissible throughout the year, including Ramadan. So it's permissible throughout the year, including Ramadan. Some of the ulama, they mention that it is permissible, and even Ramadan, but more so in Ramadan, more so to be done in the last half of Ramadan, and not so the first half of Ramadan. And some all can be done the full Ramadan from start through to end. Start through to the end. And you have different, if the Imam of the Masjid, based upon his study and understanding, that he believes that his view that it can be done, I would say all he said permissible, not a wajib. So say it's permissible, sunnah, but not wajib. If from his study he wished to do it from the start through to the end, I would say if the Imam is best, he let the people, for example, of the Masjid know his intention or what he intends to do. For example, he's going to read in a Masjid for a month for Salat al-Taraweeh. With me? So that Imam, maybe not a regular Imam, but he's been pulled in, asked to come in. Then if he intends to read from start through to the end, let the administration of the Masjid know what his intention is, how he wishes to go through, or what's his intention as to how to do kunut. With me? Or if he does read to the last, I'll let them know what is the intention regarding kunut. Clarify with them to see if something that they are with or agree with, or at least they are clear on what he intends to do. So it will become a surprise for them. Type. But if he does it and not let them know, it is something almost somewhat permissible, but not a practice that a regular practice done by most. The regular practice of the Salaf regarding the last half of Ramadan. And they left it for the first, but some who did it throughout. And sometimes all that, for example, what I've heard, that in Damaj, before it was things changed, that 1 year Sheikh Yahya led Qunut and didn't read at all for Ramadan. Because people at all, the month without Qunut, because the people are used to it. So sometimes it's to clarify that this is not something which is wajib. But a normal thing that will be done outside. But so that's how we are just a ta'aleem, and they are like, tullab mainly. So it's easier for them to understand the matter. But for the general mass, in general masajid, that at least for the last half of Ramadan, then it is more preferred to be done. But if it is done throughout, then there's no problem. From start through to the end, no problem. And that's concerning the permissibility of doing the kunut in Ramadan. As for the length of the of kunut, then that's something that I said with kunut have its own masail that try to stick to not go too lengthily regarding kunut of an area that the dua of kunut in Ramadan is too long. With some of the ai and also they try to make it too rhymey, rhythmic type of thing. Too much effort is placed into it. So those things, and you have certain ways. Sometimes the ai they kind of somewhat they criticize this, or some of the ai or some of the ulama they criticize this method, but it's permissible. But for that imam to know the guidelines. The problem is that most of the ai of Ramadan seem as if they don't know the guidelines, and that's an unfortunate thing. They seem not to know the guidelines. And regarding kunut, if it is done in the salat, then those men can say Ameen at the place that is appropriate to say Ameen. So Ameen for those behind can be done regarding salat or dua al-kunut fi salat. So with that, inshallah ta'ala, we'll move now to the next chapter or the next set of hadith.
Which hadith do you have in the book there?
Because my number is different from your number. Is the hadith of Abu Hurairah ta'ala anhu.
Okay.
That mentioned كان رسول الله إذا سجد أحدهم, that if any of you make sajda.
It's the same one, I think. Don't kneel like a camel.
أيوة. That أيوة.
Narrated Abu Hurairah radiyallahu anhu. Allah's Messenger sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, when one of you prostrates, he should not kneel in the manner of a camel, but should put down his hands before his knees. Reported by Al-Thalatha.
أيوة.
this hadith is more authentic than the hadith narrated by Wa'il bin Hujr radiallahu anh. I saw the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam placing his knees on the ground before his hands when he prostrated. Reported by Al-Arba'ah. The first hadith has a shahid, in the hadith of Ibn Umar, which is authenticated by Ibn Khuzaymah. Al-Bukhari mentioned it as a hadith mu'allaq and mawquf.
أيوة. So Imam Ibn Hajar rahimahullah, regarding continuing concern discussion regarding Sifatul Salat, they mentioned that, so this particular three hadith that were mentioned are two hadith and an athar that they mentioned. One the hadith, which is the asl hadith concerning the hadith of Abu Hurairah regarding concerning kayfiyat hawa ila sujud, how the person go down into sujud. So the person in the standing position and he wish now to go into a sujud, into sajda. How does the person go down in sense of which part of the body, limbs, touch the ground first, the hands or the knees? So these hadiths are discussed that is to discuss that particular masala. Which of the parts of the body touches the ground first when the person intend or going into a sajda or sujood. So as for the first hadith that they mentioned أخرجوا الثلاثة. أخرجه الثلاثة. من هم الثلاثة? Who are the three books that is being mentioned here? Who are the three? So mention that Ibn Hajar mentioned it, sometimes said 5, 3, 4. So who's the four? Who's the three? Who are these three? So as thalatha, Abu Dawud, Tirmidhi, and Nasa'i. Nam, Ibn Majah excluded. Ibn Majah excluded.
Abu Dawud, Tirmidhi, and
Nasa'i.
The three?
Abu Dawud, Tirmidhi, and Nasa'i, with the exception of Ibn Majah as Kutub as-Sunan, or Ashab as-Sunan, al-Arba.
Is there any particular reason for the order?
The order?
Yeah.
In what sense? Then Abu Dawud, Tirmidhi, Nasa'i, in that order? Now, sometimes the order of the ulama regarding those or that order, but we have
the strength of the.
I have strength.
Yeah.
Some is discussed, but sometimes I find that one mentioned, they mentioned concerning the strength, but the strength concerning, for example, An-Nasa'i, in reality concerning An-Nasa'i, that is hadith also that they are very strong, because Nasa'i rahimahullah, regarding his condition, that he was very stern regarding his conditions. Naam. So some of his hadith, they are very high standards. Naam. So, but those hadith that I mentioned concerning those ones, are those three that we mentioned, are the ones that are agreed upon by the ulama of hadith, that initially that they ought to be the main books of the Sunan. Naam. Ibn Majah came in later on. They got discussions, so they have those of record Sunan al-Arba, the four books of the Sunan, right? Three are agreed upon by majority or by most of the ulama of hadith, and they disagree regarding what's the fourth one. So those three that we mentioned are the ones that are agreed upon regarding that they form Kutub al-Arba. The fourth one is on a discussion, which is it Nasa'i, in latter day time they became the main one. That's been established now is the fourth one. But before some mention other books. So those three are usually mentioned together as the more cleaner or the more established ones regarding a sunan. And also their level of, because they have other books that may be their level of strength. Regarding majority of the hadith in those books are strong or sahih. So in quick going through that regarding the first hadith I mentioned, hadith we mentioned first regarding the hadith that there's a discussion between the ulama concerning this particular hadith of Abu Hurairah ta'ala anhu regarding its authenticity. So the hadith of Abu Hurairah ta'ala anhu, is it authentic or not? It's narrated by Abu Dawood, Tirmidhi and Nasa'i, but some of the narrators are under question. He's weak, who's Abdul Aziz ibn Muhammad, that is under discussion. So but you find some of the ulama, such as who have all the hadith to be authentic, and others who all the hadith to be weak. And in general, most of the hadith that are mentioned here, that we just read, most of them, that ulama, they can somewhat criticize them. So the first one of Abu Hurairah anhu, that's the first. Some who say it is sahih, and those who say otherwise. Names of those, so for example, those who hold it to be authentic, amongst them, Abdul Haq Al-Ishbili, Suyuti, Abdul Haq Al-Ishbili, he has like books of hadith regarding Ahkam Al-Kubra, Ahkam Al-Kubra wal-Sugra wal-Awsat. And sometimes he makes past ruling upon those hadith. So he mentioned the hadith authentic, also As-Suyuti, Jalaluddin As-Suyuti, also of contemporary times, Ahmed Shakir, one of the ulama of Misr. One of the ulama of Misr, of more contemporary times, last maybe 50 years or so. Also Albani, Sheikh Albani rahimahullah, all the hadith to be authentic, and also Ibn Hajar can somewhat mention وَهُوَ أَقْوَى مِنْ hadith wa'il, can somewhat indicate that stronger, could be taken as it's authentic, or mean just it's weak, but compared to the hadith of Wa'il, it is stronger. Understand that language? So in compare the hadith of Abu Hurairah anhu, compare to the hadith of Wa'il ibn Hujr, it is stronger, but both of them could be weak. Understood? Or it could mean that the hadith of Abu Hurairah anhu is stronger than the hadith of Wa'il. So it goes back to studying both hadith. Also those who hold the hadith to be da'if. Those who hold the hadith to be da'if, they said A'immat al-Kibar, Al-Bukhari, all the hadith to be da'if, At-Tirmidhi, Daraqutni, Wal-Bayhaqi. So those of the Imam of the ulama of old, Bukhari, all the hadith to be da'if, At-Tirmidhi, Daraqutni, Wal-Bayhaqi. So they all the hadith to be weak.
The Abu Hurairah hadith for the Wa'il.
Hadith of Abu Hurairah, that's that one under discussion. So those are the ones who all the hadith of Abu Hurairah ta'ala anhu to be weak. So we'll break and come back for Salat, and then we'll continue that discussion.
I'm pausing. I don't want to pause this.
Yeah.
No? We're not pause?
Yeah.
Wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah wa ba'd. So resuming, continuing concerning what we started regarding discussion regarding the matter, regarding which of the body limbs should be placed on the ground first, whether the person's hands or the person's knees. So the author rahimahullah, he mentioned some hadith regarding this particular matter. We were discussing concerning the hadith of which hadith we're discussing?
Abu Hurairah.
Abu Hurairah, that regarding concerning some of the ulama all the hadith to be, we said, authentic. I mentioned some names. Were names we mentioned: Abdul Haq Al-Ishbili, Al-Suyuti, Ahmed Shakir, wa Sheikh Albani rahimahullah. And also Ibn Hajar somewhat indicate that he authenticated hadith by mentioning وَأَقْوَى مِنْ hadith al-Wahid. Then we mentioned also with this, we have another set of ulama who hold the hadith to be da'if. I will mention some names. And these names are like giants. Now, so you have al-Bukhari, al-Tirmidhi, Daraqutni, and Bayhaqi. Before we discuss concerning hadith, this hadith also under discussion. We discuss. So those ulama have somewhat all the hadith to be daif due to a particular some of the narrators inside hadith was Abdul Aziz ibn Muhammad. So one of the narrators was Abdul Aziz ibn Muhammad that they owed him to be under discussion. So based upon this, ulama they owed hadith to be, and also that he he's the only one they mentioned that he's the only one who mentioned this hadith compared to other narrators on his sheikh. So he's the only one. So it's like an only person who mentioned this hadith on his sheikh regarding this matter. So with other things, the hadith is somewhat under discussion. So the hadith are under discussion between the ulama whether the hadith is authentic or not, and whether this person is authentic, whether he's thiqah or not. So with that being the case, that discussion that some will hadith to be daif, then also next hadith of Wahil, where I mentioned concerning إذا سجد وتر ركبتيه قبل يديه. So those hadith I mentioned in the Al-Arba. So the hadith it mentioned regarding of Wahil, that the hadith mentioned the Prophet Islam that he would place his rukbah qabla yadayn. And also the hadith of Wahil ibn Hujr, that also the hadith also is under discussion regarding its authenticity. So all the hadith and also all the hadith that is mentioned regarding this particular matter, that it is under some form of discussion. Is under some form of discussion. And from this you find from the that whatever mentions of the ulama can so the discussion regarding that the hadith are somewhat under discussion regarding authenticity regarding is the person who places his knees before his hands or vice versa. So some of the ulama, other hadith I've mentioned, but in general regarding this hadith, the matter. So regarding the ulama regarding the masala regarding which of the limbs should be placed first on, which of the limbs to be placed first on the body, or of the body to be placed on the ground, whether it's the hands or the knees. A discussion between the ulama regarding this particular matter. In a nutshell, as mentioned by Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah regarding this particular matter, Ibn Taymiyyah also they mention the athar of Ibn Umar, that they mention the athar of Ibn Umar, which they mention ذكره البخاري معلقا موقوفا. ذكر البخاري meaning in Sahih. ذكر البخاري in Sahih, but it's an athar on Ibn Umar. And they mention another two things mentioned that mawqufan meaning go back to a sahabi. So that person going back to the Prophet Islam regarding this act. And second mention mu'allaqan meaning that there's not a complete isnad. So mu'allaq means not a complete isnad that is mentioned with this athar on Ibn Umar going back to him. So it's a broken chain going back to Ibn Umar. And second, mu'allaq meaning that he mentioned a part of the isnad and did mention a certain another section, a part of the isnad. So the unbroken chain going back to Ibn Umar. So some of the ulama also they have criticized that narration going back to Ibn Umar. Also have criticized that narration going back to Ibn Umar. We go back to the same individual, Abdul Aziz ibn Muhammad. That so some discussion going regarding also the answer going back to Ibn Umar. So with this, the ulama can somewhat they discuss, as mentioned by Bayhaqi, Hadith Ibn Umar, La arahu illa wahm. That I do not see the hadith of Ibn Umar. I see that there's some errors within that hadith. I mean the answer of Ibn Umar. So some discussion regarding what I've been mentioned regarding this particular Bayhaqi, Imam Al-Bayhaqi.
The one going back to Ibn Umar, is that separate from the one mentioned in the hadith?
So you have two hadiths and one athar.
Okay.
So you have two hadiths and one athar. So hadith or athar usually concerns something going back to the sahabi or someone less. Or other or tabi'i. So also going back to Ibn Umar, you have some other narration that some of the ulama kind of somewhat but mahfudan now mawquf ala Ibn Umar.
Sorry, Ustad. What did Al-Bayhaqi say about this one?
Concerning hadith of Ibn Umar, Athar, concerning la ara illa wahm. That's an error.
Okay.
I do not see, but it's something which is an error. But you have others who have asnada ila Ibn Umar. You have others who have narrated a particular hadith, like Ibn Abi Shayba in his Musannif, that he mentioned in Isnad, going back to Ibn Umar. So you have others. So Imam Bukhari, rahimahullah, he mentioned it with a broken Isnad. But Ibn Abi Shayba mentioned with a complete Isnad. So that the Athar of Ibn Umar with a complete Isnad, then some mention that, some give some strength to that Isnad, which is that is found with others other than Bukhari, that is found with others of them, Ibn Abi Shayba in his Musannaf. Ala kulli hal, they mentioned regarding, so you have some discussion regarding, as for the matter going back to the Prophet Islam, there is nothing, or those hadith that is mentioned, that they are under criticism. So as for the hadith what is taken, that some of the ulama have used those the hadith of Ibn Umar, that as a delil regarding that the person regarding when prostrating, that the person that yaday qabla al-ard qabla rukbatayn. So they mentioned a person that he put his hands down before his elbows, or before his knees. So the hands are placed on the ground first, then the knees come after. Based upon the narration going back to Ibn Umar. And also the narration that also kind of somewhat coincide with that would be the hadith of Wa'il ibn Hujr. The Wa'il ibn Hujr mentioned so on the hadith of Wa'il ibn Hujr mentioned opposite, which is al-rukba qabla al-yadayn, the knees before the elbow. So what is a difference between a difference between the ulama regarding which of those is to be done? In a nutshell, you have some athar going back to some of the salaf that based upon it, that some of the ulama they mentioned, for example, At-Tibri rahimahullah, Imam At-Tibri rahimahullah, he mentioned وَالْعَمَلْ عَلَيْهِ إِنَّ أَكْثَرَ أَهْلِ الْعِلْمِ يَرَوْنَ أَنْ يَضَعَ الرَّجُلُ رُكْبَتَيْهِ قَبْلَ يَدَيْهِ. That he mentioned, At-Tibri rahimahullah, that was the position, the majority of the ulama, that the person that he places his knees before his hands when he goes down in salat. Now, that's mentioned by At-Tibri rahimahullah regarding, that's not the view taken by some of the ulama. A view that's taken by some of the ulama, that a person that he places his knees before that of his hands. Now, of those who are of that view, that Abu Hanifa rahimahullah, Imam Shafi and Ahmed, that I mentioned, is preferable for a person to place his knees to the ground before that of his hands, before his hands. And I use the hadith of Wa'il ibn Hujr as their dalil, and also other athar that are come upon the companions of them concern of the Sahaba and also Tabi'een. It is stated that Ibn Umar, that Umar al-Khattab used to do of that practice. It is stated or narrated upon him that Umar al-Khattab used to put his knees before his hands. Also Abdullah ibn Mas'ud, also Ibn Sirin, that they would put their knees before their hands.
Who's that narration from? About Umar al-Khattab, and is that from a separate? Is that separate?
That are mentioned in the book of Al-Musannif ibn Abi Shayba. So there's a book called Al-Musannif ibn Abi Shayba that he mentioned and some narration on the Sahaba and the Tabi'een who narration that they used to do of this practice. So he mentioned Umar ibn Khattab, Abdullah ibn Mas'ud, and At-Tibri rahimahullah mentioned that's the view of majority of the ulama. Also Imam Malik is of the view that it is preferable that a person place his hands before the knees in going down. And he used concerning the hadith of Ibn Umar, the hadith of Abu Hurairah anhu, and also what is mentioned on Ibn Umar. And also other narration that goes back to from the Sahaba, from Ibn Umar, that he used to do of this. Also Hassan, and as we mentioned, and also a narration on Imam Ahmed, that also So that's concerning that view. So that's the view of those ulama, Malik and others who take that the person should place his hands before the knees. Then a narration again on Imam Ahmed, where he mentioned that the person mukhayyar meaning he can do whichever. He has a choice regarding putting the hands first or the knees first. So you have a choice. So not giving preference to one over the other. Imam Ahmed is another, so the third view, there's no preference between this or that. Both are can be done. Both are allowable and can be done.
Imam Ahmed.
Imam Ahmed rahimahullah. So he said, Musalli mukhayyar fi dhalik. The person, it is permissible for him to choose whichever way he wants to do. And he mentioned, وَهَذِي مَسَّلَةً لَا يُصِحْ فِيهِ حَدِيث مَرْفُوعٍ النَّبِيِّ السلام. As some hold that there's no hadith that's authentic going back to the Prophet Islam that he used to do this way or that way. But know that a person's salat, he must do this way or that way. With me? So there's no, some of the ulama, there's no hadith that is authentic as to which part of the body touches the ground first. The knees or the hands. But for certain salat, you have to do one of them. With me? You got it? In salat, to go from qiyam to sujood, one of something must touch the ground first, isn't it? Must. But, you understand? So something must touch the ground first. But going back, so we said, okay, normal case, what we look to out concerning, which goes down first? We look to what? The sunnah. But when we look to the sunnah, as we mentioned this hadith, the hadith that discuss this matter, they are under what? Criticism. So we said, okay, put those hadith aside regarding, those hadith are, for example, they are all, in fact, they're all weak. But still, you are left with what? Something to be done. Something to be done. So look to the Salaf regarding what used to be done. You have narration that goes back to sometimes some would do this way or some would give preference to that way. With me? So something has to be done. So the third view of Ahmed mentioned that the person have a choice. Whichever you do is acceptable. Without giving preference to one way over the others, as the case of the others that we, the two other views that we mentioned previously. They give preference to one way over the other. But the third view, Ahmed, the third view that there's no preference to this way or that way because there's nothing authentic regarding this way or that way. A preference.
So if you hold to going to your hands first, ain't that taking precedence over the other one?
Yeah, so that if you take that view, so it says no, based upon the third view, their position is based upon, for them, there's no hadith that is authentic regarding this way is to be done over that way. But no, the person have to do something. At the end of the day, you have to do something. So if the person now is of another view, okay, for me, this hadith, it is valid, it's authentic. The hadith of Abu Hurairah is authentic. Then you act upon that. But the person believe, no, the hadith of Wahid is authentic, then you act upon this. That if you hold those hadith to be authentic. So you act upon what you hold to be authentic. I would say that, which goes more into the study of hadith. But the person following him, but if the person comes to whatever conclusion he comes to, then he holds to that conclusion. But if for him there's nothing authentic regarding this way or that way to give precedence to the feet, or to the elbows, or to the hands, then he goes with the third view, which is whichever way it is satisfactory.
So in our position now, most of us are muqallid in this situation. So if I hold to
a particular view,
the view of Ahmed Shakir and Al-Albani, so long as I don't try to impose this on other people.
Yeah, with that condition.
Yeah.
With that condition, the person who's not to the level where he can make his own ijtihad or research thoroughly. With me? Then if he says that there's an alim, because mention name of some ulama, number one concern the authenticity. So I said that must go back to the authenticity of those hadiths. The person unable to even to verify the authenticity of those hadiths, then he said, okay, I read a book of a credible alim of the sunnah and others who have hold this position. With me? Then he acts upon that type without imposing that upon others. With that condition, not imposing that view upon others. But he himself will alter that view. He can even tell others, that's my view. And even encourage them, but without imposing it on them. With me? So that's not a problem in that with that condition. So for example, a personal example said most of the ones we mentioned regarding Abdul Haq al-Ishbili, Suyuti, 9th century, Ahmed Shakir, and Sheikh Albani authenticated hadith. Now regarding putting the knees first, hands first, and that's the view that is that Sheikh Albani is that he mentioned in his book Sifatul Salat. Now, so a person, okay, take it from that book, no problem. Based upon, we say with the condition is not imposing it, forcing his view on others. Now, and overly criticize others. But we say because in a lesson, we mentioned there's another view. In a lesson format, we're mentioning that there's other views even concerning the authenticity of the hadith. Is it authentic itself? With me? Also, if we compare Sheikh Albani, Ahmed Shakir, As-Suyuti, Abu Haq al-Ishbili, compared to the ones that hadith is da'if, Bukhari, Tirmidhi, Bayhaqi, and who else? Daraqutni. Those ones, they stand on their own feet.
More heavyweight.
Heavyweights. With me? So if we look at concerning who are the ones behind which view, who says da'if, and the ones who are authentic, if we were to weigh them out by who's more of a heavier weight, then those ones that says da'if, they're heavier weight. With me?
So they're saying putting the hands first is weak.
No, they said the hadith, they're all da'if.
Both the hadith.
You understand? So they said the hadith of Abu Hurairah that we mentioned, that's da'if. With them. You understand? And even the one of Wahil, even, you understand, even more criticized. You with me? So if we say that those heavyweights on that side saying the hadith are weak, and we have those other ones that hadith are authentic, the person, okay, for me, I'm going with the more heavier weights. With me?
But you know that's not the case for most people.
You understand? So some people may use this if they knew.
Yeah, if they knew.
If they knew, you understand? So a person may know that, so using that as his measuring stick to say, I'm going to go with the heavier weights. But I said, heavier weights, it doesn't mean that in everything they're heavyweight. With me? You understand what I mean?
Because now you get some people that...
Okay. So I said that in certain cases, heavyweights, is not because you're a heavier weight. When you know that heavier weight, you're more of a higher level regarding your ilm. When we say heavyweight regarding the ulama. It doesn't mean everything that those heavyweight is on, it means that they're always correct. You might find someone of a lesser degree but qualified and may outdo the heavyweight in a particular matter. You with me? So that's also, so say not in every case that is used as a measuring stick to say, I'm with the heavier weights, I'm with the kibar, I'm with the ulama mutaqaddimin, so I mean I'm right in every matter. That's not the case. Each case is looked at independently or as it for its own case by case. Now, but as for their status, then becomes their status itself. It cannot be disputed, but it doesn't mean that in every matter that we say the kibar upon comparing to our next kibar, or maybe to a lesser degree, that the kibar that are always right in every single thing, or just that a matter concerning jumhur and majority doesn't mean they're always right. With me? So that's concerned that particular matter.
In this case, Imam Bukhari holds both views to be weak. In this case, both views.
It will be because the hadith of Wa'il even more weaker.
Yeah, the other one.
You understand? Compared to the one of Abu Hurairah is more stronger.
Yeah.
So if hadith of Abu Hurairah themselves criticize that one, then Wa'il even more criticism.
The 2 week ones you have to go
Just to clarify that Ibn Umar, it was hands before the knee.
Hands before.
Hands before the knee.
Hey.
Okay.
So instead, the training is coming at 9:31.
Okay. What time is it now?
9:15.
Yeah, just
Okay, let's try to finish off this one. So, of those masail that where are we at? Hey, so the matter concerns also the third view. So the matter concerns, so we have three views. Ones who say knees first. One view say hands first. And the third view that you can choose whichever way, right? You wish to do. Also mentioned by Sheikh al-Tabim Taymi Rahimah mentioned أجمع العلماء على جواز رسول الله mentioned أجمع العلماء على جواز صفتين that ulama agree that both those two methods, either the knees or the hands, they give permission that both ways can be used. Both ways can be used. They differ as to which of them is preferred. They mention both, they agree, and ijma, consensus among the ulama, agreement between the ulama, that both those two ways are usable regarding going down. But the difference between them is which is preferable, the hands or the knees. Now, so that's concerned that matter as mentioned by Shia. Amma salat بكليهما فجاهز. But salat بالاتفاق ulama, Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah mentioned that for a person to use in the salat, to use one of those methods, both methods are permissible, and that's agreed upon by the ulama. Both methods are permissible, but they differ regarding which is the more preferred thing. Right? So we said now, so insha musalli an yada rukbatay qabla yaday wa insha wada yaday thumma rukbatay. So I mentioned it's not either a person can do the hands first, then the knees, or the knees and then the hands. Both ways are permissible, but they disagree regarding which is the preferred thing to be done. But both are jaiz. So I said now an issue regarding me quarreling against you and you quarrel against me, then there's no need. It's just that one I might hold that this way is preferred, and that you might hold this way is preferred. But both are, in general, what? Jaiz. So that's concerning that particular matter. So that inshallah ta'ala will end and I will continue the next masala. So the next masala regarding the next hadith is the hadith of Ibn Umar. That's the next hadith. Ibn Umar.
Ibn Umar, yeah.
So that's where we're going to start from next week regarding, and that hadith will be
246.
Regarding tashahhud, julus fi tashahhud, and after it's concerning, we'll discuss moving the fingers or not moving the fingers, to be discussed inshallah. And that one also might be a little discussion.